all, Sylvanus is now the Member of Parliament-elect for Mugirango South constituency. Karibu sana and congratulations. How tough was it?
It was very tough.
Oh, it was right?
I've lost weight. I mean,
you lost weight. We'll be coming to those issues shortly. But just to bring you up to speed with quite a number of other stories that we're focusing on also. First of all, our Twitter poll this morning, we're asking you, should Nasser consider or reconsider its position to challenge the presidential results at the Supreme Court? That is our Twitter poll this morning. Let me know what you think. Quite a number of people just chiming into the conversation, and I'll be taking a look at them shortly. All right, so there you go on your screens. Should Nasser reconsider the position? Other developing stories, and the IEBC Commissioner Rosalind Akombe was last night blocked from traveling to the US. Now, she was detained at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and her luggage loaded off for allegedly failing to produce clearance to travel. Well, she has, however, been cleared to travel this morning for what IEBC said was an official function and will return on Sunday. IEBC sources, however, say that she had a clearance similar to one which allowed her to travel to Dubai to witness printing of the ballot papers. The electoral body says the government officials involved have apologized.
Officers of IBC, if in case they do have such department, then actually file the commissioner. This is somebody who is of high stature.
Yeah.
He's a commissioner, and especially after a Bruce Lee fought elections like this, these mishaps actually speaks a lot. It might be quoted with political internet because someone will say, okay, fine, with the Nasser narrative, why is she running away, you know?
Is she really running away, Charles?
So someone has to come and actually clarify that. I'm glad the commissioners clarified that she was going out for official duties. But it actually looks bad, and there must be some communication between the government and constitutional bodies with the management of the Ports Authority.
Right.
Because this is not the first time. The other time it was a CS who was also...
Now is the period where we are in is just after a very bruising election, and everything is perceived using that lens. So I don't read so much into this. It's just a matter of protocol that has not worked very well, because again, these are new commissioners. They just came into office and immediately started organizing for the election, and probably they were not taken through a proper orientation on how to work, and especially on matters of protocol and such. So I believe that maybe the legal team at the IBC and the protocol team also failed, and they should do their work. But we should not read so much into this. It's normal government procedures.
All right, Sylvanus, just coming into, I mean, this whole season, like Charles is talking about, we have, such a small thing, or such a, something we should not even be focusing on, really being made to... Yeah.
They finished. I mean, they declared results. We haven't heard from the NASA presidential candidate. He said he'll make a declaration. So any movement by any commissioner or anybody or any person shouldn't be read too much. These are human beings too.
But have they finished their work, really? We're still waiting for some Form 34As. We'll be discussing that.
They're still looking for them.
Are they looking for them? So, Murigi, in your comment, are you looking at anything? Is there anything peculiar about this?
So, for me, I see nothing peculiar. If we are, for those who know, before appointment, she used to work in New York. So, I think, but the problem is everybody, we all read malice in everything. And I remember when in the morning, the first, I was going through my WhatsApp messages, and actually saw that message, and the way it should even be breaking news.
Be making any news right now.
Yes, okay. But in any event, she's a commissioner at the IEBC. Any movement, anything that she does will be seen suspicious. So it is...
Especially now.
Especially right now. It is human nature. I would say it is human nature. I wouldn't question much, but it's human nature.
All right. Yes. Sylvanus, before you joined us, we were having a conversation about KHRC being deregistered and Africog having their accounts frozen by CBK. And I was asking my panelists, if they're reading anything queer into it, because apparently some of the civil society groups were just readying themselves up to going to the Supreme Court to challenge the presidential results from
registered. However, the timing is suspicious. I mean, we want reconciliation. We are talking about bodies that, act as watchdogs to the common mwananchi. We are talking at a time that people are complaining about the police brutality all over. I mean, the timing is very suspect. In as much as we might, if we go to the legal structure, we might find probably that the human rights body had faulted some law or messed some at some point. I mean, they could have waited for settlement of this time. Everything goes down, and then they deregister it.
All right.
So clearly, this is a sign that probably the government, the sitting government, is using all means to retain power. Bodies of that magnitude, publicized that we started this and this and this. If a mere foundation run by Kidero could be brought as breaking news, what about a human rights body that has been in service for quite some time? So clearly, the timing is very suspect. And for me, I am of the opinion, I'm actually thinking that the opposition or any opposing body is being silenced. And that is it.
That's what you think.
Exactly.
All right. I just want us to just delve into something else, Sarah, about that before we move on. And Muregi, just maybe like 2 months ago, we had the Kalonzo Musyoka Foundation also coming to the fore, having quite a number of issues to deal with.
Yes.
Just a few days ago, we had civil something that should not be happening.
I'll highlight one of those transactions that were affected, and it concerns Rosemary Odinga's NGO that funds were frozen, and I believe it was $500 million.
Yes, $500 million.
And the source was George Soros, and any of us who know about George Soros would know his connection to politics and all that, and then at the same time there was allegation that these funds were to be channeled towards political cause, which is against the objectives for which this NGO was formed. So I'm looking at it being objective. But what we've said is anything that happens during election time is questionable. And it ended up in court. And the issue was that the High Court was of this opinion that at this point we cannot make a determination whether the NGO is compliant or not. The issue that they were raising is that they had not been given an opportunity to be heard before their deregistration. You see, and that's the reason why the decision by Fazul was quashed at that point. But you see now, the same issues, the same 7 issues that were raised during that time are the same ones now that the NGO board is coming and raising. But now, the issue that now is the time. Timing is quite essential. In everything, the art of timing is very, what do you call it? It's so crucial.
All right.
So we need to ask ourselves, one, if there are certain things that they have not complied with, they also ought to comply. They cannot, we cannot say that they occupy a special role.
Right.
But the issue of clamping down civil society organizations by mere fact of being against the government is wrong. I would say that is wrong.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's now move on to another. You want to add something on that, Jesse?
Yes, I want to add something. Just what my learned colleague has said about George Soros. No law prohibits any politician or somebody who has a particular interest to contribute to NGOs or any other organization. And therefore, the mere fact that George Soros was linked to Rosemary Odinga's NGO, that should not be a basis. And at least they do them, you can't just you can't just insinuate an intention and say that this is what you're going to do. You can't do that. And then further, the same thing, actually I'm glad he brought it up, the same thing that the NGO board did last time in 2015 in court is exactly what they're doing again. They have not had, these organizations have not been given a chance to be heard, including AfriCorp. They have been deregistered and no formal letter has been communicated to them. The other letters are communicated to other agencies. I mean, if that is not malice, then what is malice?
All right.
I think, just to add one thing, I think what we need, we should not lose in this conversation is that this is work in progress. Since 2015 or thereabouts, that time and now, I think there are a number of them which have already complied, and we're already seeing that the only challenge that we have, I agree, is the issue of the timing, but I still want to insist on the issue of the rule of law. And for the NGOs, like Caesar's wife, they should be above reproach, because they are the civil society is the space between the state and the people. So they really must not have any issues. If you are not compliant to the law, then you lose that platform to just the high ground to say that you're being hounded, yet you're not compliant.
All right. Fine, gentlemen. I want us to continue with the conversation and now focus on what's happening today. So yesterday we were waiting for the NASA big announcement, but that did not happen. And of course, they came out and cited that they were still undergoing consultations because this is a delicate issue. Sorry, let me come to you and start with you in this one. What are we looking at? Because the options seem very slim for NASA, and that's even why we're asking if they should be reconsidering a petition at the Supreme Court.
They've actually made it very clear before that going to court is the last option. It's actually no option for them. And what I expect from Raila Odinga today is probably to concede defeat and quit politics, perhaps. I mean, trying to put this country on hold for me is not, it's something that it shouldn't be happening right now. I am an opposition MP-elect, but then there are some things that I'll not agree with. That we have legal structures for any person opposing to court. If not going to court, then concede defeat or remain silent and wait for the president to be sworn in so that we move on. Some of these things, because I remember in our campaigns, Raila Odinga was very clear that you guys just go and vote. I'll take care of the votes.
Yes.
So I'll make sure that they're not stolen. So coming back again to tell us that they've been stolen, I mean, that is a question that we're trying to raise all over, and we're not happy. As an opposition leader myself, I'm not very happy.
You're not happy?
Yes.
You're not happy that he's come back to the people and said,
exactly.
Now I have to tell you.
We do not want to hear such stories. If you never protected votes, then go to court. If you don't want to go to court, then keep quiet.
All right.
We have the president-elect, and let's move on in the country.
All right.
Exactly.
Murigi, that's such a,
to approach the High Court. If that does not happen, within 14 days, the president is supposed to be sworn in.
Yes.
That is what is supposed to happen. But it is irresponsible for anybody to stand there and say that my election was stolen. But I have gone to court so many times. I have been there. I was there in 2013, and I already know the outcome. So that will be my last option to go there. One thing what you do is that you discredit the courts with that one statement. And what we are saying is simple, and these have been the calls. If indeed anybody believes that the election was stolen, they have the evidence, they have been provided with all the forms, take that, go to court. If you feel that you're not, I wouldn't say man enough, but if you feel that you will contradict yourself, use NGOs that are again, come back in 2022, you will get the vote. But you cannot hold the country hostage. It has been over a week since people voted. We are going, are we going? Yes, yes. We are almost a week now since the people voted. For almost 2 weeks, people have not been working. You can tell that the station has not normalized. People expected that would get the statement tomorrow, yesterday. So, and then now it is postponed to today. So I think somebody is trying to hold this country hostage, and it is not good for anybody. The country needs to move on.
Jesse, coming to that option of the Supreme Court, and there have been quarters and even some NASA supporters who are saying that the courts are not independent enough to handle this case because Raila Odinga, as Murigi has just mentioned, has lost at the Supreme Court before, and maybe that's the reason that there's no confidence in the Supreme Court. You have judges there who are, lining or leaning towards NASA. So why the change of heart right now? And why aren't they willing to take that option of, going to the Supreme Court, which really could be the only one that they have?
I think, Betty, it's very reckless for somebody to attack the Supreme Court or even any aspect of judiciary in that manner. I mean, that is the last resort for this country in case there is anything. And we said in this show that the peace of this country is going to be anchored on two institutions, IBC and the judiciary after, during elections and post-election period. And therefore, I find it's very reckless when you try to cast aspirations on the judiciary and even question their independence. We had a totally different bench of the Supreme Court. Right now we have 3 new judges, so it's a completely different bench. So it is wrong for NASA principals or even NASA supporters to say that last time we went to court and we did not get justice according to them, and without keeping in mind that these are a completely new bench that has been constituted. Clearly, as you pointed out, NASA has moved to court on the run-ups to elections with several cases, and they have won several cases too. Some they have also lost. But then it's typical of politicians. When something good happens your way, you praise the system, and when something bad happens, now you have to come with all guns blazing and do. But we have to move from that and start respecting individual institutions. We have a problem as much as which is a very not so much common option that Raila Odinga has, apart from moving to Supreme Court. There is what we call the Lome Declaration. The Lome Declaration says that in the event that one of the parties to a dispute with regard to election can come with substantial evidence that the elections were rigged or were not, rule of law was not applied in holding that elections, and further prove that any other legal avenues are exhausted, then he can petition the African Union and the United Nations to declare that government illegitimate.
Illegitimate. So that's an option that
is also another option that Raila Odinga has.
But Jesse, still on you, because you know, I had another panel of guests yesterday, and they were talking about back in 2013. They said that they did not have enough jurisprudence to,
At that time, that was a very, what we call in the legal corridors, a baby Supreme Court at that time. But then, as much as it was a young institution at that particular point, but then we went ahead and got the best legal brains, people who could stand up to that. That decision, we commonly call it in corridors, the Raila Odinga decision. Most of the lawyers and even judges appreciate that it was bad law with regard to the throwing of the affidavits, which was evidence because of time constraints. But then now, the Supreme Court, it's not bound by the decisions they have made. They can overturn their own decision. That is the only court that does not work under precedent. They create jurisprudence. And therefore, in fact, Raila Odinga should accord the legal fraternity this chance for the Supreme Court to advance the jurisprudence and even and bees, and they're saying that they can't get some of them, they haven't manufactured some of them, whether manufactured or they're not compiled.
We'll be getting to that conversation, Jesse. Charles, I will be getting back to that from this break. Charles, just talk to us about, the options that lie for NASA. Should they just take the only route that they have right now?
Well, the options for me are just two, as my colleagues are saying. Number one, go to court. Because I think as a country that we are led by the rule of law, and even the NASA leader himself, Raila Odinga, being a champion of reform in this country, he's been championing for rule by law and constitutional means of addressing issues. So I think it is time that he really demonstrates that, that character and does that. Because anyway, at the end of the day, there is no other legal means of addressing this issue of any concern outside the court of law. Because and coming from a time where they've really been, they were almost residents in the High Court. Just before the elections, going to pushing petition after another, litigation after another, which really affected even the conduct of this election, then it betrays the intention that really, I think at some point, if this Supreme Court did not have this exclusive jurisdiction to handle the issue of the presidential petition, and they had the option of going to the High Court, they will already have been there, because they feel that the composition of the High Court, I don't know, it's only speculation, but probably they are looking at people based on their extractions and saying, this one, the last name seems almost close to mine, so he may deliver a ruling that is close, that is favorable, which is why there is no other reason of saying we are prudence. Now, but allow me just to finish. I think the second option is for Raila Odinga to be the statesman, take the high road and say Kenyans have participated in an election which has really been very credible and has been very credible in the history of this country. So, bearing the results that Kenyans have given and their verdict, I respect it, I concede, and then he'll even have the opportunity to even serve not just Kenya, even the international community as an eminent person.
All right. And that's where, when we come back from the break, that's where I want us to start the conversation from, because, there are quarters that are saying, okay, you know what, just accept, let's accept and move on. But if you go back to the Kenyans, the people who actually, supported Raila Odinga, and they're seeing all these allegations thrown all over the place about the, the form, having that discussion in a short while. But remember also, we are still having our Twitter poll, and we're asking you, should NASA reconsider its position and challenge the presidential results at the Supreme Court? Quite a number of tweets. Let me just sample a number of them. All right, Miss Muhoho Kenyatta, I don't think it's the real one, but she calls herself this, and she says, no, the Supreme Court is controlled by Uhuru Kenyatta. Just is one of the things that you defend so passionately about the Supreme Court. Here's another attack. Patrick P. Wamalo, you say, if voting does not decide who becomes president, then let's explore other options for this country. Nobody will go to the ballot, I beg your pardon, to decide the president. Somebody here, Bobin Kavela, you say, what do you expect from the Kenyan courts who are answerable to the executive not to null this IBC computer votes? George Okoth, you basically say the truth finally will be known. Talk to me. Continue doing that. Hashtag to use is Kivumbi2017 or at Betty MKL is my Twitter handle. Should NASA reconsider it's an option to go to the Supreme Court? We're taking a break. We're coming back in a few moments and then we'll be continuing the conversation.